Unveiling the shadows of South Carolina. Welcome, dear viewers, to another spine-tingling episode on our haunted storytelling channel, where we delve deep into the eerie and unexplained. Today, we embark on a chilling journey through the dark corridors of history, exploring the top most haunted places in South Carolina. This southern state, steeped in rich history and vibrant culture, hides within its picturesque landscapes and charming towns a tapestry of ghostly tales that have intrigued and terrified locals and visitors alike for generations. South Carolina's haunted reputation stems from its complex past, where battles were fought, lives were lost, and legends were born. From the cobblestone streets of Charleston to the dense forests surrounding abandoned plantations, every corner seems to whisper secrets of those who once walked these lands but never truly left. The state's unique blend of colonial architecture, Civil War remnants, and Gullah Geechee cultural influences creates an atmosphere ripe for supernatural encounters. As we prepare to explore these haunted locations, it's important to note that each site carries its own distinct flavor of fear. Some are marked by tragic love stories turned vengeful, while others bear witness to violent histories that continue to echo through time. Whether you're a skeptic seeking rational explanations or a believer eager to confirm your suspicions about the paranormal, this exploration promises to captivate your imagination and perhaps make you reconsider that midnight stroll through historic downtown areas. In this comprehensive investigation, we'll uncover not just the where of these haunted sites but also the why behind their spectral inhabitants. We'll examine first-hand accounts from those brave enough to confront these spirits, analyze historical records that support these claims, and explore the psychological impact these locations have on visitors. Through expert interviews, archival research, and personal testimonies, we'll paint a vivid picture of South Carolina's haunted landscape. So, grab your favorite comfort item, be it a blanket, a cup of tea, or perhaps a protective charm, and settle in as we illuminate the shadows of South Carolina's haunted history. Remember, while some may dismiss these tales as mere folklore, countless individuals have experienced phenomena they cannot explain, leaving us to wonder, is it merely the wind rustling through ancient trees, or something far more sinister watching from the darkness? Before we dive into our first location, let's establish a crucial point. The stories we're about to share aren't simply campfire tales meant to thrill. They represent real experiences, documented evidence, and centuries-old legends that continue to shape how people interact with these spaces. As we transition to our first haunted destination, keep in mind that sometimes, the most terrifying aspects of these stories lie not in the ghosts themselves, but in the human tragedies that created them. Let's begin our journey into the supernatural heart of South Carolina, where reality and the paranormal dance in an eternal waltz of mystery and fear. The ghosts of Old Charleston Jail. Our journey into South Carolina's haunted history begins at one of its most infamous landmarks, the Old Charleston Jail, a Gothic-style structure that has stood sentinel over the city since 1802. This imposing building, with its granite walls and iron bars, has witnessed nearly 2 centuries of suffering, violence, and death, making it one of the most active paranormal sites in the entire southeast United States. The jail's construction itself was plagued by misfortune, beginning with the mysterious disappearance of several workers during its early development stages. Local legend suggests that their spirits remained trapped within the thick stone walls, unable to find peace due to their abrupt and unexplained demise. However, the true horror began when the facility opened its doors to house Charleston's most dangerous criminals, including pirates, Civil War prisoners, and members of the notorious Ku Klux Klan. During the Civil War, the jail transformed into a prison camp, housing thousands of Union soldiers under horrific conditions. Historical records indicate that over 300 men died within its confines from disease, starvation, and brutal treatment. Their desperate cries for help can still be heard echoing through the empty halls, particularly on moonless nights when the building casts long, ominous shadows across Magazine Street. One of the most well-documented ghost stories involves the spirit of Lavinia Fisher, America's first female serial killer. Executed in 1820 for her role in a murderous innkeeping scheme, Fisher's ghost allegedly haunts the 3rd floor where she was held before her execution. Multiple witnesses report seeing a woman in a white dress patrolling the corridors, accompanied by the scent of roses, ironic given her bloody past. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVP, of a female voice chanting, "Leave me alone," in the very cell where Fisher spent her final days. The basement level, known as the dungeon, presents perhaps the most disturbing paranormal activity. During renovations in the 1990s, workers discovered makeshift cells where slaves were imprisoned before being sold at nearby markets. Since then, numerous reports have surfaced of shadowy figures appearing in photographs, disembodied moans emanating from empty rooms, and sudden temperature drops that leave researchers shivering despite the summer heat. Professional mediums who have visited the site describe overwhelming feelings of despair and anger emanating from the lower levels. Perhaps most chilling are the accounts from tour guides and maintenance staff who work in the building regularly. Many report hearing the clanging of chains and distant footsteps late at night, even when they know no one else is present. Several employees have quit after experiencing what they describe as physical assaults by unseen forces, scratches appearing on their skin, feeling hands grabbing them in empty rooms, or being pushed against walls by invisible entities. The jail's paranormal activity isn't limited to visual or auditory phenomena. Many visitors report overwhelming emotional responses while touring the facility. Some experience sudden waves of nausea or panic attacks in certain areas, particularly near the gallows where executions took place. Others claim to feel phantom hands tugging at their clothing or brushing against their skin, especially when standing near the original holding cells. What makes the Old Charleston Jail particularly fascinating to paranormal researchers is the consistency of reported phenomena across different groups of visitors. Tourists from all walks of life, many completely unaware of the jail's history, independently report similar experiences: cold spots near the gallows, strange whispers in the main hallways, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched. These repeated patterns suggest that whatever haunts the jail isn't simply a product of suggestion or overactive imaginations. The building's current use as a tourist attraction hasn't diminished its paranormal reputation. In fact, the regular flow of visitors seems to energize the spirits, resulting in increased activity. Nighttime tours often end abruptly when participants become overwhelmed by the intense atmosphere. Several paranormal television shows have attempted to document the activity, but many crew members refuse to return after their initial experiences. The equipment failures, inexplicable noises, and crew members' emotional distress have become almost as legendary as the jail's haunted reputation itself. The phantom shipwrecks of Bull's Bay. Our journey now takes us to Bull's Bay, a hauntingly beautiful stretch of coastline where the sea holds secrets older than the land itself. This treacherous waterway, located just north of Charleston, has earned its reputation as one of South Carolina's most haunted maritime locations. The bay's deadly combination of shifting sandbars, strong currents, and unpredictable weather patterns has claimed countless vessels over the centuries, creating what locals refer to as the graveyard of the Atlantic. Legends speak of the Flying Dutchman of Bull's Bay, a spectral ship said to appear during storms, warning sailors of impending doom. Unlike other ghost ship tales, this particular apparition reportedly materializes in perfect detail, complete with visible crew members going about their duties as if oblivious to their ethereal nature. Numerous credible witnesses, including experienced fishermen and Coast Guard personnel, have reported seeing this vessel emerge from the mist, only to vanish suddenly when approached. The bay's haunted reputation extends beyond mere sightings. Many local divers and marine archaeologists working in the area report experiencing equipment malfunctions and sudden disorientation while exploring known shipwreck sites. Particularly active is the wreck of the Henrietta Marie, a slave ship that sank in 1700 with over 200 enslaved Africans aboard. Divers attempting to study the site often emerge shaken, claiming to hear mournful singing and feel phantom hands grasping at their legs in the murky depths. Perhaps most disturbing are the accounts from commercial fishermen who work these waters daily. They tell of encountering ghost nets, fishing gear that appears out of nowhere, snagging their boats, and tangling their lines. When hauled aboard, these nets are found to be impossibly old, made from materials not used in modern times, yet bearing fresh catches of fish. More alarmingly, several fishermen have reported finding human bones entangled in these spectral nets, only for the evidence to disappear before reaching shore. The coastal communities surrounding Bulls Bay maintain a collection of oral histories documenting encounters with the bay's haunted past. One such story tells of Old Man Grady, a lifelong fisherman who swore off his trade after witnessing what he described as a procession of lights beneath the waves. These ghostly illuminations, he claimed, followed him for miles before disappearing into the depths at dawn. Within weeks of this encounter, Grady's boat was found adrift with signs of violent struggle, though his body was never recovered. Local historians have documented over 300 shipwrecks in Bulls Bay dating back to colonial times, each contributing to the area's supernatural infamy. The most notable is the tragedy of the SS Magnolia, which ran aground during a hurricane in 1893. Survivors spoke of seeing their drowned comrades walking on the surface of the water, beckoning to those still struggling in the waves. This phenomenon has been reported numerous times since, particularly during severe storms when the bay's restless spirits seem most active. The haunting extends ashore as well. Residents of Awendal, the nearest town to Bulls Bay, frequently report hearing the sound of ship bells ringing in the dead of night, though no ships are visible. The local cemetery contains numerous graves of sailors whose bodies washed ashore, many marked only by simple stones bearing the inscription, "Unknown Sailor." Visitors to these graves report feeling an overwhelming sense of sadness and hearing whispered voices speaking in languages long forgotten. Paranormal investigators studying the area have documented unusual electromagnetic field readings consistent with high paranormal activity. Equipment often malfunctions without explanation, and thermal imaging cameras regularly capture unexplained cold spots hovering above the water. Most intriguing are the EVP recordings collected during investigations, featuring clear voices speaking in multiple languages and warning of danger ahead. The indigenous Sioux tribe, who originally inhabited this coastal region, had their own legends about the haunted bay. They believed the area served as a gateway between the world of the living and the realm of spirits. Their oral traditions speak of water walkers, ghostly figures who could traverse the surface of the bay at will, appearing only to those about to meet their fate at sea. Archaeological evidence suggests the Sioux actively avoided settling near Bulls Bay, building their villages inland despite the abundance of seafood resources. Modern technology has only added to the mystery. Sonar surveys of the bay floor have revealed formations that defy natural explanation, perfect circles of stones arranged in patterns reminiscent of ancient burial sites. When teams attempt to investigate these anomalies, their equipment fails consistently, forcing them to abandon their efforts. Fishermen working nearby these coordinates report their compasses spinning wildly and their radios picking up garbled transmissions that sound like distress calls from sunken ships. The haunting presence of Bulls Bay affects not just those who venture into its waters, but the entire surrounding ecosystem. Wildlife behaves erratically in the area, with birds avoiding flight paths over certain sections of the bay and fish exhibiting unusual migration patterns. Marine biologists studying these phenomena have noted that animals seem to react to something invisible to human eyes, often fleeing areas moments before unexplained phenomena occur. The cursed plantation of Brattonsville deep within York County lies historic Brattonsville, a sprawling plantation complex that stands as a testament to South Carolina's antebellum era. While tourists flock to admire its preserved architecture and learn about Southern history, few are prepared for the supernatural encounters that await within its elegant halls. The plantation's haunted reputation centers around the tragic tale of Mary Bratton and her star-crossed lover, John Williams, whose doomed romance continues to haunt the property nearly 2 centuries later. Mary Bratton, daughter of prominent plantation owner William Bratton, fell deeply in love with John Williams, a young tutor hired to educate the family's children. Their relationship blossomed in secret, hidden among the plantation's sprawling gardens and shadowy slave quarters. However, their love was forbidden. John's modest background made him unsuitable according to strict social conventions of the time. When Mary's father discovered their affair, he banished John from the plantation and arranged for Mary to marry a wealthy Charleston merchant. The night before her arranged marriage, Mary disappeared. Search parties combed the plantation grounds, eventually discovering her lifeless body hanging from an oak tree near the slave cemetery. Heartbroken and guilt-ridden, John returned to the plantation weeks later, only to take his own life in the same spot where Mary had ended hers. Their double tragedy set the stage for what would become one of South Carolina's most persistent haunting legends. Visitors to Bratonsville report numerous encounters with the ill-fated lovers. Many claim to see a young woman in period dress wandering through the gardens at dusk, her face obscured by a veil. She's often spotted near the family cemetery, where Mary's grave stands separate from her relatives, a silent testament to her father's lasting disapproval. Staff members have reported finding fresh flowers placed on Mary's grave, despite no record of recent visitors or maintenance work scheduled. The plantation's main house bears witness to equally unsettling phenomena. Guests staying overnight often wake to find their beds soaked with tears, though no plumbing leaks or roof damage can explain the moisture. Several have reported hearing muffled conversations coming from empty rooms, particularly in the former library where Mary and John would secretly meet. Electronic devices brought into these areas frequently malfunction, with batteries draining rapidly and settings changing independently. Perhaps most disturbing are the reports from maintenance workers who service the plantation's slave quarters. These small cabins, painstakingly restored to reflect their original condition, seem to harbor a malevolent presence. Workers claim to feel invisible hands grabbing at their tools, hear angry whispers in African dialects, and experience sudden drops in temperature that frost their breath in the humid South Carolina air. Some believe these manifestations represent the collective pain of those enslaved here, their spirits unwilling to leave the place where they suffered so greatly. The plantation's annual "By the Light of the Moon" tours provide ample opportunity for supernatural encounters. Guides routinely recount instances of guests breaking down in tears for no apparent reason, overcome by an unexplainable wave of sorrow. Several have reported seeing two shadowy figures embracing near the infamous oak tree, only to vanish when approached. Photographers capturing images of the plantation often find inexplicable orbs and misty shapes floating near the family home and slave cemetery. Local historian Dr. Emily Thompson has spent decades researching Bratonsville's haunting phenomena. Her findings reveal a pattern of increased paranormal activity during significant anniversaries related to Mary and John's deaths. Soil samples taken from beneath the oak tree show abnormally high levels of mercury, suggesting that both bodies may have been buried there secretly, contrary to historical records stating John's remains were interred elsewhere. The plantation's archive room houses letters and diaries that provide chilling insights into the tragedy. Mary's journal, discovered hidden in the walls during renovations in the 1950s, details her growing desperation and mentions seeing dark figures watching from the woods. Researchers handling these documents often report developing unexplained rashes or feeling intense pressure on their chests, symptoms that disappear once they leave the archive. Security footage from the plantation's surveillance system has captured numerous unexplained events. Motion detectors frequently trigger without cause, showing empty hallways filling with mist or doors opening and closing on their own. Night vision cameras have recorded what appears to be a young man pacing outside the main house, his form visible only as a heat signature against the cool night air. The haunting extends beyond visual and auditory phenomena. Many visitors report experiencing overwhelming emotions while touring specific areas of the plantation. The Rose Garden, once Mary's favorite spot, induces feelings of profound grief and longing in unsuspecting guests. The slave quarters evoke intense anger and frustration, while the family cemetery generates an aura of watchful protection, as if the spirits of Mary's ancestors continue to guard her resting place. The eternal vigil of Fort Sumter. Rising from Charleston Harbor, Fort Sumter stands as both a historical landmark and a beacon for paranormal activity, its haunted reputation intrinsically tied to the bloodshed that marked the beginning of the Civil War. On April 12, 1861, Confederate forces fired upon this strategic stronghold, initiating 4 years of devastating conflict. The fort's crumbling brick walls have since become a repository for the spirits of soldiers who perished during the bombardment and subsequent battles, creating what many consider the most militarily haunted site in the United States. The fort's most frequent spectral visitor is Captain Abner Doubleday, credited with firing the Union's first defensive shot. His spirit reportedly patrols the western bastion, where he coordinated artillery fire during the siege. Night watchmen and tour guides have encountered a distinguished figure in Union officer's uniform, meticulously inspecting cannon placements and barking orders to invisible subordinates. Particularly chilling are the instances when visitors' cameras capture images of Civil War-era soldiers standing beside them in photographs, only visible upon review. During restoration projects in the 1980s, workers uncovered a hidden chamber beneath the officers' quarters containing skeletal remains and personal effects of Union soldiers who had taken refuge there. Since this discovery, paranormal activity has intensified dramatically. Tools and equipment left overnight frequently go missing or reappear in impossible locations, such as inside sealed ammunition storage rooms. Construction crews report hearing distant battle sounds, cannon fire, musket shots, and agonized screams, echoing through the fort's passageways, despite no scheduled reenactments or military exercises. The fort's hospital wing, hastily converted from barracks during the war, hosts some of its most disturbing hauntings. Nurses and medical staff who served here maintain detailed journals describing their struggles to treat hundreds of wounded soldiers in primitive conditions. Modern-day visitors report seeing bloodstains appearing and disappearing on the walls, accompanied by the acrid smell of gunpowder and rotting flesh. Several mediums who have visited the site describe overwhelming sensations of pain and fear emanating from this area, particularly during low tide when the fort's isolation amplifies its supernatural atmosphere. Perhaps most intriguing are the documented cases of time slips experienced by visitors. Dozens of credible witnesses have reported stepping through certain archways or doorways and finding themselves momentarily transported to 1861. They describe seeing soldiers in full regalia engaged in combat preparations, hearing authentic period dialogue, and even participating in brief exchanges with these apparitions before snapping back to the present. Military historians have verified the accuracy of uniforms, weapons, and tactics observed during these episodes, lending credibility to these extraordinary claims. The fort's lighthouse, rebuilt after sustaining heavy damage during the war, serves as a focal point for much of its paranormal activity. Keepers assigned to maintain the light have resigned after experiencing what they describe as demonic harassment, disembodied voices demanding surrender, objects moving violently through the air, and shadowy figures blocking their path during routine maintenance checks. A particularly disturbing pattern emerged when several keepers independently reported seeing the same group of Confederate soldiers marching toward the lighthouse at dawn, always heading southeast toward Morris Island. Archaeological excavations conducted in the 1990s uncovered a network of underground tunnels used during the siege for secret movements and supply deliveries. These passages, largely collapsed and flooded, generate some of the most intense supernatural phenomena reported at Fort Sumter. Thermal imaging cameras have captured humanoid shapes moving through areas deemed structurally unsafe for human entry. EVP recordings collected in these tunnels contain overlapping voices speaking in both English and German, the latter belonging to immigrant soldiers who fought for both sides during the conflict. The fort's museum curator, Sarah Whitaker, has compiled extensive documentation of ghostly encounters reported by staff and visitors. Her research reveals a correlation between lunar cycles and increased paranormal activity, with full moons bringing forth particularly vivid manifestations. Museum artifacts frequently change positions overnight, despite sophisticated security systems monitoring the exhibits. Most troubling are the instances of Civil War-era weapons firing themselves during closed hours, with security footage showing triggers being pulled by invisible hands. Local historians have identified several hot spots within the fort where paranormal activity concentrates. The powder magazine, where munitions were stored during the war, maintains a constant temperature 10 degrees colder than surrounding areas. Visitors report experiencing sudden nosebleeds and dizziness when approaching this space, while EMF detectors register readings far exceeding normal levels. The southwest battery position, scene of some of the heaviest fighting, produces audible cannon fire and the sensation of concussive blasts that leave observers physically shaken. Nighttime security personnel face the brunt of Fort Sumter's haunting phenomena. Their logs document recurring apparitions of both Union and Confederate soldiers engaging in eternal combat, their spectral battles playing out against the backdrop of modern Charleston's skyline. Several guards have reported being physically accosted by unseen entities while making rounds, sustaining bruises and scratches that appear without explanation. The fort's resident cat, introduced to control rodent populations, refuses to enter certain areas and exhibits extreme agitation during thunderstorms, conditions similar to those present during the original bombardment. Perhaps most compelling is the fort's effect on visitors with no prior interest in Civil War history. Many report experiencing vivid dreams of battle scenes for weeks after their visit, waking with detailed knowledge of military strategies and personal accounts from soldiers they've never studied. Historians reviewing these accounts have confirmed their accuracy against primary source documents, suggesting that the spirits of Fort Sumter actively seek to preserve their stories through willing conduits. Embracing the shadows of South Carolina's past as we draw this chilling journey through South Carolina's haunted heritage to a close, we find ourselves standing at the intersection of history, mystery, and the supernatural. The stories we've explored, from the echoing halls of Old Charleston Jail to the ancient wisdom of Congaree forests, weave together a tapestry of terror that transcends mere ghost tales. These locations, each uniquely haunted by their own tragic pasts or mysterious energies, collectively paint a portrait of a state where the boundary between worlds remains perilously thin. What makes South Carolina's haunted sites particularly compelling is their authenticity. These aren't manufactured scares designed for entertainment, but genuine locations where hundreds, sometimes thousands, of people have experienced phenomena they cannot rationally explain. The consistency of reports across different demographics, from skeptical scientists to wide-eyed tourists, lends credence to the idea that something truly extraordinary occurs within these spaces. Whether it's the anguished spirits of Brattonsville, the eternal vigil of Fort Sumter soldiers, or the primeval guardians of Congaree's forests, these hauntings persist because they represent unresolved chapters in our shared human story. The importance of preserving these sites extends beyond their supernatural reputation. Each haunted location serves as a tangible connection to South Carolina's complex history, reminding us of the human cost of progress, the scars of conflict, and the enduring power of nature. By maintaining and studying these places, we honor not just their ghostly inhabitants but the countless lives that shaped them. The Old Charleston Jail stands as a monument to centuries of incarceration and injustice. Bull's Bay remembers those lost at sea. Georgetown's Crossroads speaks to our darkest impulses. Fort Sumter preserves the trauma of Civil War, and Congaree protects an ancient wilderness that predates human settlement. For those inspired to explore these haunted treasures, remember that respect and caution should guide your steps. Many of these sites offer